What's going on, guys? Welcome to another story time segment with your boy Phrankleen. This episode is sponsored by Sendwave. Sendwave is basically an app that you could download within the two shakes of a duck's tail on your mobile devices, be it Android or iPhone. So what does it do? Sendwave allows you to send money from Italy, Ireland, Spain, United Kingdom, United States to Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, and a couple of other African countries, right? The beautiful thing about Sendwave is you can send money, within the comfort of your home on your mobile devices, and there is no commission to add to your transaction as an extra payment like others do. And also, if you use my promo code Phrankleen, as it's spelled on the screen, you get £5, $5, and or €5 added to your first transaction. The promo code is limitless. You can give it to your friends, and or families to also use for their Sendwave transactions. So download Sendwave and get cracking. Now, this lady sent me this email, and it's basically about, like a family palaver, and she wants me to share the story and also wants my view. So I said, okay, why not? The background is, I'm female in my late 20s, living in Africa. Great. So she had previously lived in the diaspora and study an undergraduate program, and then moved back to Africa, which is where her father and stepmother and the rest of the family are based. And so she's then contemplating again to, I think, go do a master's program or something. But here's the story. She said last year in 2019 was pretty much hell because she had really devastating health problem. It said she got severely sick. It started suddenly and then just turned into months and months of chronic pain. I empathize with you. I went to over a dozen, doctors, all kinds of specialties, did all manner of tests and scans and therapies, and nothing. I even underwent, surgery, and later found out I didn't need the surgery, and still they couldn't find anything. Then eventually I ended up being directed to pain management doctors, and because they were defeated, they just put me on narcotics and opioids, not to treat anything in particular, just to take and use for the sake of it. So for 3/4 of the year in 2019, I managed everything myself, which I didn't mind. I was very protective of my privacy, so I didn't mind, doing what I had to do quietly. All hospital bills, medications, and pains. A number of times I had to use ambulance service. It was crazy. So we get the background. She went through a phase where she was severely ill and all that stuff. So eventually, insurance ran out, health insurance. I started going low on cash, but most importantly, I realized that the narcotics were, where what they were doing to me. I was high all the time, and noticed if I do something drastic soon, I'll become an addict even sooner. So I asked for help. Here's where things, completely turned left. So basically, this lady opened up to her dad. She was at the time she was living in a different location in Africa, right, which was under the roof with her dad and her stepmom. So she opened up to her dad, basically, to tell him about how her health is really depleting and all that. Said he lives in another city, and I told him about it. We'd always been so close, ever since I returned from diaspora. He said I would tell him almost every detail of my life. I would expose, and show him what modern life is like. Every time he visited the city, I would take him for lunch at, fancy place, like daddy's girl type story. Have a good relationship with pops. Okay, we'd go to new restaurants, and because he always traveled by road for several hours from home to city, I paid for his first aeroplane flight experience. It was so momentous for everyone, especially him. Of course, he never traveled by road again. He enjoyed it. Fantastic. So after telling dad about the sickness, he was sympathetic at first and worried, and asked me to go home, that he will find a doctor for me, as in for her. So long story short, my dad and my uncles did find a doctor who seemed to have a clue. He didn't cure the pain 100%, but at least his treatment eased constant pain by 85%. And then My dad made a request, more of a rule, that I couldn't leave home until I felt completely better. I was too sick and too tired to even bother arguing, so I said fine. So dad, however, lived with his partner, who is a stepmom, right? Our stepmother, and she's the stereotypical stepmother: pretentious, envious, cruel, vicious, and just fights everyone in the homestead, inclusive of my uncles and aunties. This is according to the email, okay? My dad's way of operating in the family, though, is that of a mega award-winning, pretense. Let's just all smile and giggle and pretend that we're family just because, I was home for so long. So anyway, the long and short is she had to be home under the roof with her dad and the stepmom for a period of up to 3 months because of her illness. Right, remember I established the story with that she was dealing with chronic illness and stuff. So for that reason, she moved in with them in order to get medical attention, which is understandable. So this so-called vile stepmom, she said there are some of the major things the stepmother did while I was there. She asked my ailing elderly grandma why she needs tending all the time. Wow. And if my grandma is so sick, she could just die and go. All my uncles and aunties and dad heard about it, and no one did anything. She openly mocked and made fun of one of my cousins who was extremely sick with female issues and had a complicated pregnancy, and said that's why she never got married. Anyway, okay, yeah, that's family palaver right there. She told people that my dad needs to watch it anytime he annoys her. He should know her background. He should remember where she came from. She can poison him anytime. Wow. My dad knows about these very well. He did nothing. And then she proceeded to say, I wasn't really sick. I was pretending. I wanted attention. I just wanted to use and squander my dad's money, blah, 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 blah. It all got really, really toxic. More and more attacks from this so-called stepmother against herself, particularly, and the rest of the sibling. And she would wipe the floor repeatedly with her dad, inclusive of uncles and aunties, when nobody could stand up to her. But then something caught my attention, right? She said that uncles and aunties would say stuff like, oh, we can't get involved, the culture doesn't allow us. That's the very common thing in Africa. Unless your dad comes to us, culture doesn't allow us to go to him and interfere, or we don't want to get involved in things, or we didn't want to pick sides, or we don't want to step on toes, and the list goes on, right? So basically she felt helpless, inclusive of her siblings, because they're aunties and uncles, but everyone was talking on the sidelines in the background. They were expressing their disgust, about this woman and stuff, but they couldn't confront her. Nobody could do anything about it. Then she said she found out that the stepmother runs some sort of NGO, so in village standards, she's quite well off, and no one wanted to offend her, just in case they ever need monetary assistance from her. I see. So all of those uncles and aunties were in fact on this woman's payroll. So they've been bought because of monetary favors. They had basically parted with their integrity. They are voiceless. So it explains it. The relationship with her father completely collapsed. He did nothing. And then she talked about what do I think? What would I do? And she said it's a very common toxic culture of religion, money in Africa, enabling abuse. And she said she's basically feels emotionally torn apart by this woman and all of the toxicity, coupled with the illness that she's dealt with for like almost a couple of years now, which is, taking a devastating toll on her as a person. I can relate to that. She said, I want to finish by saying, I've just said that the incident cost me an enormous amount of emotional pain and distress earlier this year, but thanks for some great contacts who helped me with professional help and proceeded and stuff. I've basically, pretty much abandoned my dad. What would you do, Phrankleen? So the long and short is we have the story of a lady, like I said, who had very bad health issues, and then a toxic stepmother, according to the email. Now that's very common, okay? Having toxic, step parents, stepmoms or stepdads even, and stuff. But here is my take, okay? First of all, I empathize with you. From indications, you stated that you're a lot better with your health. So I wish you a speedy recovery. having said that, a lot of this is, really complex internal family palaver, right? And I'm just an outsider that's reading your emails. Now, your dad has not been able to, I don't know what the circumstances around, your mom, and I can understand as a child, first of all, as a child, when someone is not your parent and stuff, it takes a whole lot for you to be able to embrace another person and claim them as your parent. They have to be really, really good, kind, and accommodating. There has to be some kind of chemistry, both emotionally, in other ways, okay? So, but in this case, you called your father, your father spineless because he let you and your siblings down. The woman drags him like a doormat and he does nothing. He's unable to talk and stuff. There is layers to this. There are things that, so maybe, I don't know, you've not painted your dad as somebody who's absolutely broke, or maybe he's totally reliant on this woman for monetary favors or whatever. There must be something. And also, like I said, Africa, different African countries with different, culture and stuff like that. But some of these cultures are kind of similar in most parts. Unfortunately, it's one of the fundamental problems that we have, this so-called toxic culture that enable abuse and all that. When somebody looks at an elderly woman like your grandmother and says, oh, she should go and die, you can't say that to anybody and hope to get away with it at all, or think that should be accepted as normal. Your father not doing anything and pretending like everything is all right, wanting everybody to just amalgamate themselves and sit at the table and eat and carry on as normal, whilst enabling that woman. He himself is contributing to the abuse by doing nothing, watching his daughter, his children being repeatedly violated. So basically, he's not really bothered about having a healthy relationship with his children. So the long and short of my own observation and my own contribution is, for your own sanity, your father has made this, he's elderly, as he's also elderly, like you say. He's lived the best part of his life. He's chosen that woman, okay? If you carry on and on and on, you're not going to leave in there forever. You're there because you're ill. I understand that. So, what would I do, man? You've told your father your peace of mind. He let you down. The things you told him in confidence, he violated you by making it public within the family and telling the stepmom, who then used it against you, who's saying, oh, you're just using your father's money. That's your father. For her to be doing all that and stuff and remains unchallenged. Remove yourself from that situation, man, and move on with your own life. You're an adult. I know it's toxic. I know it's bad. You're probably daddy's girl, and there's nothing wrong with that. You love your pops and stuff. But unfortunately, it gets to a point in a man or a woman's life, you just have to remove yourself from that situation. Leave that man alone. If he's going to learn a lesson, he'll probably do, or he'll probably die that way, with that woman. Whatever happens to him within the confines of that toxic relationship, that's on him, okay? Remove yourself from there. And, unfortunately, a lot of these people, in terms of African culture, they've grown with this toxicity and very, very toxic mindset. They've grown in this really bad habits and ways, okay? They are stuck in their ways. So if you're trying to preach to people who are very adamant mentally and emotionally, they can't even see the abuse and all the things you're talking about, you're wasting your time. Eventually, you're going to get sucked into that process, dragged into the mud with them, and they will end up destroying you as a person, both mentally and physically and in other parts of your life. I'm not saying totally abandon your father, but keep your distance, leave him alone with your stepmom. You're an adult now, and I wish you all the best with your future. Remove yourself. Remove yourself from that toxic environment. She lives under the roof with your father. Go ahead and live somewhere else. I mean, you already live somewhere else. Just leave him alone, because you're not going to get anywhere. And your father, as a man, is rightly placed to be able to curtail or prevent the woman from dragging you, your siblings, and the entire extended family, through the mud, in terms of, the mud of disrespect. But you're saying his spineless is doing nothing. So I personally don't even want to get involved in that. But just observing and following my gut feeling and application of common sense, there is more to it. And he's just that type of a man, He's maybe the honey pot has got him mentally tied. Maybe there is more to it. Remove yourself and get on with the best part of your life, okay? It's your boy, Phrankleen. What do you think, man? let's keep that conversation going on below. I'd like, you know, people to comment. I'd like to be part of that conversation so we can hopefully learn. Remove yourself if you see a toxic stepmom. I mean, it would have been a lot more concerning if you were a lot younger, you're vulnerable, you're a kid whereby you're only dependent on your father. It's a lot more dangerous when you're still a child and then there's a stepmom who is very vicious in the picture. That's very deadly, okay? But you're grown now, man. You're grown. Remove yourself and keep your distance. That's the best I can tell you. And whenever you can, say hello, check on your dad. And if you don't feel like it, all the best. That's me done. It's your boy Phrankleen. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you want to support my channel, you can do so via Patreon for a minimum of $5 or $10 a month. Or support my channel via PayPal or Cash App. Look in the description below if you want to send me emails. footchannel1960@gmail.com. My email address is in the description below. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace and love. Bye now.